terms of today's halaqah is because oftentimes it's something that's missed. It's almost like this. Imagine you had a piece of clothing, let's say a shirt, and this shirt is really dirty. And imagine you just start putting perfume all over it, thinking that everything is going to be okay. It smells good. Would you think that shirt is good to go to wear? Why not? You put perfume all over it, right? Just a couple of sprays here and there. The problem is that the dirt is still there. So what's the first thing you need to do? To wear that shirt, you have to wash it. Get rid of the dirt. So similarly, when it comes to New Year's resolutions, sometimes people, they think that they want to do something new. They want to improve themselves. They're spraying with that perfume or cologne, but deep down inside, there's still that dirt that needs to be removed in the first place. And so that's what this is all about, dealing with regrets. And so for today's topic, here's the breakdown. And again, here's how it goes. So this is what it looks like. First, we're going to talk about what is regret in the first. We want to make sure we're on the same page here. What is regret in the first place? We may be talking about the same thing. I mean, we all may say the same word, but we don't mean the same thing. Then we'll dive into some references from the Quran and Sunnah. What does it say about regret, all in all? And then last but not least, of course, some strategies on how we can move past regret. Everybody has their own story. Everybody has things that they're dealing with behind closed doors. Everyone regrets something. But the question is, how do we move on from that? Make sense? Good to go? So, if I was to ask, what is your definition of regret? You can imagine if you've continued on with these halaqahs, and if you see me, you always know I like to start with that baseline definition just to make sure we're all saying the same thing. So curious, Muhammad, what would you say? Definition of regret for you? Without using the word regret, yeah. Guilt of doing something or not doing something. Very nice. Remorse from actions in the past. Pretty intense. My brother. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Love to participate. That's what this is about. Guilt. That's the key word. We got Reebok in the house. Talk to me. This is the main word is remorse. Anything, Khala? Like guilt, remorse. It seems to be the common theme all in all. Now, fair enough. We're gonna unpack this a little bit more, but just curious, what are some examples of things that people regret? I could start. Maybe someone regrets not studying for their test. Common example, right? What are some things that people do regret? Okay, I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that. You say when someone's on a diet and they're eating clean, but then they eat that sweet meal, they have that sweet tooth, oh, it's midnight, and they look at the fridge, should I have this? So they regret cheating on their meal. Fair? Being rude to someone. Yeah, I'm sure we've all had those moments where you say something and you wish you could take it back. Absolutely. Kareem, yeah? Marriage? Oh, man. Just right out the gate with that one. Oh, man. May Allah help us all. This is a conversation to have. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us all. I know, it's a utopia that every marriage is perfect, but unfortunately that is a source of regret for some. Wow, right out the gate with that one. How about you, Mr. Reebok? Missing a job opportunity. Yeah, you've seen okay, a promotion perhaps, like you overslept. Oh my gosh, I missed the job interview even sometimes. Fair. Anything else? Just curious. Get the ball rolling. Not handing an assignment on time for school. Fair enough. Okay, what about, let's say, towards the deen purposes, let's say the spiritual side of things, just for a moment. What would you say is something that people regret as Muslims? What do you hear? Yeah, go 1, 2. Whoa, man, what's going on with you, man? What did you eat for breakfast today with all these philosophical? Not being kind enough to their parents while they're still alive. Wow, subhanAllah, that's the ultimate regret, you know? I don't know how you're going to top that, but go for it, my man. You missed salah. Yeah, that's another big one. None of us are perfect. I'm including myself in this conversation. You know, the 5 times a day daily prescription, but we can't live up to it sometimes. Pri- Prioritizing something over salah is another big one. Fair, fair. Pretty okay, mashallah. I love this is again, these conversations are needed to be had. Muhammad, you got any more? One more, just to put an icing on the cake here. There's nothing else? Related to deen, I wish I donated more. Some people say that, right? I wish I could have given more sadaqah. Some people, they build their money and they have their pockets, they're filling their pockets. Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, regretting about, I wish I could have learned more Quran, memorized the Quran while it's tough, you know? Nowadays we're older. You agree? Well, as we get older, it's difficult. But when you're a child, it's like a sponge. You get it. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. We can sit here and wallow in our own misery. Why not? The whole night. But you see, tons and tons of examples for regret. But just to make sure we're all on the same page here, one way you can look and see how regret is defined is the following. Basically, regret could be described as pain or distress in the mind at something done or left undone. So one more time, pain or distress in the mind, so it's all here. You don't feel regret here. You don't feel regret in your stomach, right? You feel regret in your mind at something done or left undone. I think it builds off what you were talking about when it comes to guilt, right? Could you regret at something you did? Possible, yes or no? Could you also regret something you didn't do? It's unique, huh? It's like a double-edged sword here, like where it's like or a coin with 2 heads or 2 sides. So it's not just things that you did do, it's also things you didn't do. You know? Anyone know who this character is? Just curious? Yeah? Homer Simpson. What does he always say? Like as his catchphrase. You know, donuts, that's another one too. In the context of regret, like, oh man, I should have done it. Like that's the whole idea where people, they say, oh, I wish I could have, you know? So just curious, in your opinion, do you think people regret more about the things they did do or things they didn't do? Maybe hands up if you agree, it's things I did, that's why I regret more. Fair? Okay. How about things you didn't do? Oh, okay, majority saying that, didn't do. Fair. So, curious, why things that you did do is a more cause of anguish compared to things you didn't do? Makes sense, 100%, man. You know, for those who don't know, like this is my bread and butter, communication coaching. So being conscious and aware of words, I'm like extra heightened about it. You know, one way I've heard it been put like this is that when your words aren't being said, okay, let me rephrase it. When you don't say any words, you're the master of it. The moment that the words leave your mouth, they are the master of you, meaning they take control over you. You can't take back or retract what you're saying. So that's why they say your tongue is so dangerous that there are 2 gates, your lips and your teeth. So you really got to think twice before we say something, because once it's out there, you see? So very, very solid point there. Now just curious, for those who say the other way around, it's things I didn't do. Why is that more agonizing compared to things you did do? Time flies, and so you realize, oh man, missed opportunities is a source of anguish and pain. Fair, fair. Anything else? Just curious about that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay, I see where you're going. So, some people think when you're a Muslim, it's like you're in a prison, almost in a way. Like, oh man, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't. Right now, it's Friday night, even though it's the blizzard time, but how many people go to the clubs? That's their way of de stressing, and that's their way of saying, Yallah, this is my reward for the whole hard week that is done. And for Muslims, they're like, oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do that. I can't watch this. I can't watch that. I can't do this. I can't do that. And so you feel like you're suffocating. But the idea behind these rules, for they say for every law there's a reason, and for every reason there's a law. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to stay away from the major sins and avoid the minor sins, it's to prevent that feeling of regret. Because believe me, down the line, like this is the pitch. You listen and you obey to the best of your ability of Islam, you're going to lead a successful life here in the akhirah. Inshallah, may Allah make us amongst those who live up to it. But otherwise, if we don't, if we say, you know what, no, I'm going to live life on my own terms, the way I think, the way I believe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is out of the picture, so let me just live life the way it is, well, get ready for a bunch of regrets. It's going to happen, right? So fair enough. That's interesting. All right, so that's this. Now, here's a really cool thing. Well, not really cool. It's cool that we have access to it, but it's not cool in and of itself. There's this very famous study that was done by terminally ill patients. So, unfortunately, the time death waits for no one. We're all going to be knocking on that door at some point or another. May Allah make us, in the end, the best possible. There was a study that was done where this one researcher, it's called the top 5 regrets. You can search it up, top 5 regrets. And this person asked all these terminally ill patients what were their biggest regrets in life. And when I said it was cool, I mean it's cool that we have access to this information. Can you imagine having people at that such vulnerable state, and we can get glasses into figuring out what exactly are the top 5 regrets? You want to know what they are? You want to know what the top 5 regrets are of people generally speaking across the board? All right, here we go. Number 1, look at this. The top 5 regrets. Number 1, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Number 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Number 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And number 5, I wish that I had let myself be happier. Those are the top 5 regrets of terminally ill patients. SubhanAllah. I'm going to pause for a second here. Out of these 5, which one do you feel hits you the most? Like, which one resonated? Was it the courage to live a life true to me? I hadn't worked so hard, expressed my feelings, stayed in touch with friends, or be happy? Which one? Just curious. I know I'd like take a moment to simmer down, but what would you say off the top of your head? Which one resonated with you the most? Shakur, yeah? Yeah, Tupac Shakur, that's how I know him, yeah. Go ahead, Shakur. Any one of these 5 that really stood out to you? Express my feelings? Yeah, man, that's intense. Yeah, that's the thing. Some people, you're talking about marriage, right? I'm gonna bounce back on that. You see someone that you really, I could probably build a life, and then you don't. You're scared, you're shy. You're gone, right? That's a regret. Some people, maybe it worked, maybe it didn't, right? So what else? Which one of these for you? 5, other 5. I hadn't worked so hard. Why? One time you worked so hard on a project for weeks, and then at the last minute it got canceled. Now let's be clear about this one, though. It doesn't mean that you just say. You walk into the school, what's the point of life anyway? Just we're all going to end up 6 feet under, so what's the point? Why I need to get an A plus? Let me just yell. It doesn't. Maybe the key here is not to work so hard that it's at the expense of everything else. When you work, you don't eat, you don't sleep. Your family's suffering. I gotta work. You know people like this, right? They work so hard till the work to the bone, as they say, right? So that's fair. Anything else? Just curious. Any one of them connected or yeah, go for it. I wish I could be happier. You want to talk to me a bit about that? Just curious. Yeah. MashaAllah. Amazing. So just to reiterate for those who couldn't hear, it's that you go into university or college and you see a lot of people they're stuck in a program they just don't genuinely like. Someone else. It almost is related to the first one. I wish I lived a life on my terms, not someone else dictating to me what I should be. So whether it's the big three, doctor, engineer, lawyer, you know, I wish I had the courage to say, you know what, my talents are somewhere else. I'm going to pursue that as long as it's, of course, within halal means. And that's the idea. Fair enough. Amazing, amazing. So those are the top 5 regrets. You can feel free to search it up. Top 5 regrets. You'll see the study being pulled up for more information. But it's remarkable, huh? How when you have that now, when you examine your life and I examine my life, we can ask ourselves, are we falling into this trap? Do I have the courage to express my feelings more? Do I have the opportunity to be happier where I can choose to be? Can I stay in touch with my friends? Maybe I don't want to be just isolated. There's that, something to think about. One more chart here I came across, which I thought would be phenomenal for us to look into. Again, we're just setting the stage until now. We're going to talk about the deen in a moment. This is just another way of looking at a formula, so to speak, with regards to regret. What if I told you that there was a way, how can you mitigate and manage through it? So check it out. On the y-axis, you have action and inaction. Remember we talked about regret can be 2 forms. Things I did do, things I didn't do. And on the x-axis is short-term and long-term. Especially for us as Muslims, we don't just think the here and now. We're thinking way beyond. When we're buried 6 feet under, all the way until the day of judgment, Allah is going to judge us for our deeds, not just on us. How did we affect other people? You see? So we're not just limited to ourselves. We're saying, hey, look, what I do affects others. So check it out. Let's look at this. If you have action in the short term, you get more regret. Let's just say there's a really difficult decision you had to make. You have to quit your job for whatever reason. It's short term, and the action is you found it to be the case. You might feel heavier with that. You feel a lot of regret about it. I don't know if it's right for me. I left my job and this. But then long term, you end up with less regret because of the action you took. Over time, other things take place, and then you start to feel less bad about it. You see what I mean? So in the immediate short term, you're like, oh my gosh. That's, again, Kareem, mashallah, you opened up a can of worms here with that marriage comment. So many people don't know when to call it quits. It's very difficult. Some people, they look at the relationship and they say to themselves, I'm in a sinking boat here. And they hold on, desperate, thinking that one day something will change. But maybe the best thing to do is to say, you know what, it didn't work out. Many people are scared of that. They don't want this regret short term. Oh, I don't want to be known as this, or I don't want, what will people think of me? I'm a failure. So in the short term, you look at all the things that can go wrong. But how many times have you heard of stories where people said, this was the best thing that ever happened? I got out of that toxic relationship. I got out of it, and it helped me for the better. You know, they say, it's better to be from a broken home than to live in one. It's better to be from a broken home than to live in one. So you might get a lot of regret short term, but down the line, less regret. But then let's look at the other side of things. If you have inaction, I don't want to do something. Let's just say we're talking about passing up a job promotion, a new opportunity. So I don't want to go for that interview, or I'm scared because I'm not prepared. I don't know if I can make it. So inaction, I'm not doing it. Short term, you're like, I don't have any regrets. I don't have to deal with the stress of the interview. I don't have to deal with the stress of this. But down the line, long term, you get more regret. Because you go back and you think to yourself, what would have happened if I just tried that interview? What would happen if I just tried reaching out to XYZ? You see my point? So you see how everything is reversed. And it's all dependent on action versus inaction, short term versus long term. Does that make sense to everybody? Clear? Interesting, huh? Fascinating when it comes to regret. So the next time you're saying, I'm going to put in all my hard work in this project and assignment. Oh man, I'm putting in so much work. I regret it because it got canceled. But maybe, just maybe, because of the work that you put in that assignment, it helped you prepare for another assignment that would have been helpful. You'll find that you'll have less regret. MashaAllah. So that's setting the stage about regret, all in all. Any questions so far? Anything that you want to add in? Anything that want to hit the pause button for a second here? And again, for those of you tuning in, of course, always welcome to type in the chat. Yes? You know they say, sorry. You know they say, yeah, exactly, when you regret, so you know they say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You like basketball, you like hockey, you like soccer, you like football, you like lacrosse, you like cricket. At least go with it, go for it. Just try. If you say, I'm not going to shoot the ball, all right, well, guaranteed you know that you're never going to get it in. Well, yalla, how many highlight reels, I'm sure you've seen it, where the person just throws the ball, just trying their best, and somehow it made it in. You see those miracle shots? Half court, all the way, impossible shots. So there you go. Some people, they're saying, and they're always wondering, well, what if? This feeling of what if, and we'll talk about it, especially in the deen, about how this is damaging, all in all. So very solid. Yes, all right. So let's talk about this. There's a hadith actually explicitly about regret. All right, and it's from Sunan Abi Dawud 4855. Okay, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Here we go. Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes here of the deen. What does Islam teach or talk to us about regret? Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying that whenever a people sit in a gathering, mashallah, we're all in a gathering, may Allah accept our gathering, without remembering Allah. You hang out, you're in a gathering, you don't remember Allah, you're just hanging out. Then when they leave that gathering, it would be as if they had sat around the corpse of a donkey, and that gathering will bring them regret on the day of judgment. One more time. Whenever a people sit in a gathering without remembering Allah, then when they leave that gathering, it would be as if they had been sat around the corpse of a donkey, and that gathering will bring them regret on the day of judgment. What on earth is this talking about? You tell me. First initial reaction to this. Yeah. Nothing is fruitful without the remembrance of Allah. Okay, what else? You go for it, Shakur. MashaAllah, Shakur, my man. I mean, that's awesome. Like, implicitly, it's talking about who are you hanging around with. So many people, you tell me, are there people, they just waste your time? Time wasters, losers. They just have nothing better to do than to gossip. They just talk about entertainment day and night. Nothing fruitful, like you said. It's either that you know, whenever you have friends or people you interact with, the litmus test is this. When I hang out with you, will you bring me closer to Allah or will you bring me further away from Allah? That's ultimately what it is, right? Am I saying that we're perfect? Of course not. Do we have ups and downs? No. If you're with your Muslim brothers and sisters, does that mean you have to go at an ice cream shop and you have to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every moment? Not like that, but you get the idea, right? At least you say Bismillah before you eat. Why not? There's a little something there, little sprinkle, little something. That means you're always remembering Allah because it's so easy to forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So easy when you're caught up in the hustle and bustle of life. You talked about, I work so much on this assignment. I prioritize things over salah. So easy. That's the weird thing. That's so harsh to say that for us for those of us who are born and raised Muslims, Islam is not guaranteed. It's not in your DNA. You could have just embraced Islam a little while ago. And yet, somebody who was born and raised, they could forget Allah. That's the scary thing. So there's always, just like when you're playing basketball, which quarter counts the most? The first quarter? Second quarter? Third quarter? It's the fourth quarter when the game stops. Because I could be trailing by 20 points, 20 points, 20 points, and then I catch up at the end. That's the thing about this deen. You can have people who are praying, and then not praying. And then there come people, some people not praying, last minute they're praying. You never know. So look at that, regret. What an image, huh? A corpse of a donkey? Oh, subhanAllah, man, what is that? On the day of judgment. And the specific word, regret, on the day of judgment. Oh, man, why did I spend 10 hours talking to the so-and-so, right? So that's the idea. Even in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention as well about regrets. You want to come closer, Muhammad, if you don't mind? You want to read this out for me? I always like to use the, mashallah, hafid. Yeah, here we go. Yu'minun, jazakallah khairan, exactly. In the 19th surah, ayah 39, Allah is saying, and warn them, O Muhammad, of the day of grief and regrets. So day of judgment, Yawm al-Qiyamah, people talking about this, day of judgment. But Allah is describing this day as the day of grief and regrets, when the case has been decided, while now they are in a state of carelessness and they believe not. Basically, Islam is all about I told you so on the day of judgment. That's all it is, really. Many people are saying there's no God, there's no Jahannam, there's no Jannah. And then at the end, inshallah khair, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us on, the books on our right hand and we're on the good side. Basically, I told you so. I wish I listened to that person. I wish I took this deen more seriously. For all of us, and I'm including myself in this conversation. I wish I prayed more. I wish I fasted more. I wish I gave more. I wish my ranks are higher and higher. Look at how the idea, what I'm highlighting here is how Allah is saying the day of grief and regrets. Yawm al-Qiyamah. People are saying it's the day of judgment. Yeah, but there's other names. The day of regret. I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have done that. And even in Surah Al-Fajr, on that day, man and woman will remember, but how will that remembrance profit him? Let me see if I can pull up this ayah particularly. Surah Al-Fajr, ayah number 23. Do you know by offhand, by any chance, anyone? Surah Al-Fajr 23. وَجِيءَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِجَهَنَّمَ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَتَذَكَّرُ الْإِنسَانُ وَأَنَّى لَهُ ذِكْرًا. Right? Subhanallah. Yeah, yaqulu ya laytani qaddamtu li hayati, right? I wish. Why am I painting this bleak picture here? Because this is the reality. We're still talking about that smudge on our shirt here. We're still talking, again, we're going to get on the good side. There's a light at the end of this tunnel. But I just want to highlight here, because if we don't understand the pain of regret, whatever it is for all of us, then what's the point? People will go through life thinking, whatever, what am I doing? Nothing wrong. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us such a big, thing here when it comes to that. So it's funny, not funny. I don't know why I use the word funny a lot. It's remarkable how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using specific language to determine specific things, to highlight judgment, when people are held accountable. You look on the news, you know what? Okay. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the comedian Cat Williams. You're familiar with Cat Williams? You have no idea who Cat Williams is? MashaAllah. You know him. All right. There's this interview that just took the internet by storm in the beginning of 2024 with Shannon Sharp. Okay? This Cat Williams, he's a comedian. He spoke a lot. Almost 2 hours, 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours if I'm not mistaken. This guy just opened the doors to so many things. But one thing I'll highlight, why am I pointing it out, is Cat Williams said something, don't quote me verbatim, but he mentioned something along the lines of, this year is the year of truth. The truth will come out. People are hiding things, and this year will be the year of retribution. Wow, that's pretty intense. And he started actually labeling or calling out certain people in the industry. So where am I going? How is this connected to regret? Is that when it comes to regret, many people feel like they can live life and won't get caught doing certain things. They think they're invincible. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us. Again, I'm including myself in this conversation. No one is exempt from this. It's just that when you've been doing so many wrong things for so long, you feel like you're unstoppable. And then the moment when everything is revealed, now it's like you're regretting all the things. You're not regretting the actions. You're regretting that you got caught. That's the ultimate thing here. So on the day of judgment, everything will be exposed. Everything. You can hide for a while. You can run, you can hide, but you can't escape. You see? You can run for as long as you want. Go ahead, go on a yacht, 30 years. Go embezzle funds. Go take advantage of the people's money. Go ahead and just do all sorts of things. Go, run wild. See what happens to you on the day of judgment. That's why one thing, subhanAllah, is remarkable. One sheikh mentioned that stuck with me. Allah does not allow a complete crime. It's fascinating to put it that way. It puts your heart at ease. When you say to yourself, how is this guy or this lady getting away with all this? Allah does not allow a complete crime. If they don't see punishment here or retribution here, guess what's waiting for them? You see? So may Allah protect us all. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to have any regrets. We can sleep at night peacefully if today's our last day. I'm already packed up and ready to go. I did my prayers. I gave my salah. I prayed my salah. I gave my charity. I said salam. I try to be a good person. Okay, I can sleep at night. I didn't wrong anyone. So there's that. Now, you may be familiar with this theory, the 5 stages of grief. Anyone's heard of this before? Hands up if you've heard of the 5 stages of grief. Just by memory. Does anyone know what it is? Like the first stage? Just curious? Let me see. I'll hide this for a second. Anyone know what the first stage is? No, yeah. Okay. Denial. Then what's the second stage? You probably memorized it, didn't you? No? Okay, anger. No, just kidding. Go ahead. So denial, and then anger, and then what? Depression. There's something before it. Before it. Here, imagine you're... Which one? No. It's like if you're doing business with someone, what are you doing? You're trying to settle a price. Bargaining, yeah, negotiation, yeah. Bargaining, negotiation. Depression, you mentioned it, and then the last one. Acceptance. So, oh, why am I bringing this up? About the 5 stages of grief. It's a very popular, I want to call it a theory, I want to call it a framework in psychology. 5 stages of grief. When something bad happens, may Allah protect us and help us. If we lose a family member, something terrible, you lost your job, something really tragic happens, there's 5 stages that people go through. First is denial. This can't be happening to me. You deny it. Second stage is anger. Why is this happening? How many people do that? They shake their fist at Allah. Why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? Then bargaining. Okay, can we make this, don't make this happen? Can we work something out? Depression. I'm too sad to do anything. Now I'm like, okay, I'm powerless. And then acceptance. I'm at peace with what happened. 5 stages of grief. Let us, I was thinking about this, and you could use this in some way. Again, not from a scholarly opinion. May Allah forgive me for any mistakes here. This is just something I thought of with regards to the 5 stages of grief. You see, Rasulullah is the greatest human being ever to walk the face of this earth. You see? And the time when the companions were around him, unlike any other. Can you imagine Rasulullah in our time? How amazing would that be? You have somebody in the midst, we're talking the cream of the crop. And the day he was gone was the darkest day of the ummah. Can you imagine someone as bright and as illuminating? Anytime you had a question, anytime you had something, he's right there. This is the chosen one we're talking. And now he's gone. The whole ummah basically collapsed. If you noticed, when you read the hadith, even at an elementary level, not like super deep PhD, let's say at an elementary level, you'll notice that the companions, the closest ones that were around him, dealt with his death in different ways. You will notice, for instance, Umar, radiallahu anhu, he almost collapsed. Like his legs was like, I can't, like he said, out of the love, out of the respect, out of the shock of this situation. How did he behave? He almost collapsed. He was in denial. This can't happen. And even he was upset and angry. You notice, he was frustrated. Don't tell me that he's gone. You can't. Because of the love that, you know why, subhanAllah, now I'm thinking about it, because subhanAllah, Umar radiallahu anhu, we're talking 180. He was on the way to kill the messenger. And now he said, I'm going to put my life on the line for you. Like, when you talk about somebody bringing out from dust or dirt to like the ultimate, so it's one thing when somebody is with you all the time and you have that loyalty, mashallah. That's a special bond and love you can't replicate. But on the other side, if you have someone who hated you and now loves you with all their heart, that's a different kind of thing. I'm using the example of Malcolm X, where Malcolm X, you say like he hated stuff, people, and this, and then it's a thing to transform completely. So what I'm trying to say is that Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu, you look at him, he's in denial and anger. But contrast that with Abu Bakr. What was he like? How did he react to this? He went straight to acceptance. He went through all these stages, I'm sure. There's no way he didn't feel anything. But he went quickly down to acceptance. And he made that famous statement, right? Whoever worshipped Muhammad, let him know that he's dead. He's gone. But whoever worships Allah, Allah is everlasting. Talk about how you deal with regret, subhanAllah, based on the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. Amazing, huh? That's one way you could look at it. And that's what it all boils down to for us. How do we deal with regret and how do we deal with grief? You see? In addition, there's another perspective of a hadith. Rasulullah ﷺ, he mentioned, I want to actually pause because I don't want to, be a waterfall here. Is this making sense so far? Anyone have a comment or anything you wanna? I'd love to always like engage and have these conversations. Yeah, so far so good. Alhamdulillah. So here's another perspective. We're talking about if. Some people are saying, if only I did this, if only I did that, right? If only I chose this college, if only I married this person, if only I took a left turn instead of a right turn. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he mentioned something very powerful here. He said, if anything befalls you, do not, okay, repeat, do not say, if only I had done such and such. For saying if opens the door to the deeds of Satan, shaitan. You tell me, why is it problematic when somebody's saying, if only I did this, if only I did that? Why do you think this is problematic and opening the doors of shaitan? Not productive. It's not productive. It's painful. I didn't do it. Like, I'm not doing anything. Some people like to Oh, this reminds me of another quote. They say, misery loves company, but company hates misery. Nobody likes to be around a miserable person. You ever see that before? You have a friend or a classmate. Oh my gosh, I keep getting 60s. I keep failing my class. Oh my gosh, what am I doing, man? I can't. I don't know what to do with myself. Oh my gosh. Okay, what am I? Do you want to hang around somebody like that? Do I like to hang around somebody like that? Yeah, we all have our moments, but do you like to hang around somebody who perpetually, continuously, always does that? Misery loves company. Everybody loves to, please, I need a shoulder to cry on, please. Please, Kareem, help me. Help me, Kareem. People, they do this. They are looking for sympathy, right? But misery, so even though misery loves company, company hates misery, you see? So saying if only is a waste of, you mentioned waste of time, and not only a waste of time, indirectly, it's almost questioning the qadr of Allah in a way. You know? Now, are there some things that are within your control? Absolutely. Let's again use the simple example of a job, yeah? Yeah. Yeah. So he's talking about the context of war. So at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there were a lot of battles. Yeah. So there are some companions, they were ready to do it. It's part of the deen, right? It has to be. I hate to say that war is a part of life throughout history, no matter what context. Pick a religion, pick a place, pick a time. Unfortunately, war has always been here. So at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there are some people, companions, ready to go, no problem, ready to defend the deen. And then there's some people that are like, well, I don't know about this, right? And those people who are always on the fence, they claim to love the deen. They say, oh, if I sign up for this, then I'm basically signing my death, right? And Allah's saying that even if you say that and it's written for you to die, you can be in your own home and it happened. You know, subhanAllah, it reminds me of a story. I don't want to mix things up. May Allah forgive me for any mistakes. I believe there was a family that fled from a Middle Eastern country to come here. I believe it was in Canada. Okay, they fled. It was wartime. They came here to Canada, and subhanAllah, they died in a house fire. I don't know if you've heard this story. You heard this story, so you know what I'm talking about. Look at this. You're saying when it's destined for you, it's destined for you. You can't escape it. May Allah help and have mercy upon those who, who've gone through a tragic time. So that's a very solid point. Even when you say if, it also inadvertently you start questioning Allah. So you're going down a bad path, basically, is what's happening here. When you open the door for shaitan's going to start planting things in our head. It's going to end up, you're going to start rationalizing things that aren't even there. You start saying to yourself, if only I married this person, I wouldn't have this problem with that. Actually, if I married her, then I wouldn't do this. And by the way, and this, and you start rationalizing, and then it's jeopardizing your own current relationship. You see where I'm going with this? I'm using marriage of. People are always asking, why is a single guy talking about marriage? Yallah, you don't have to touch the stove to know it's hot. Okay, you don't have to touch the stove to know it's hot. You can see things, all right? You can understand it. You don't have to always, oh yeah. So you get the idea where it's just going down a nasty road. Don't open this door, keep it shut. Okay, be smart, think about it. Say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, help me, guide me to what's right. If it takes me down a weird path, all right, I don't know, but I'm trusting Allah is going to be my guide, because Allah can make miracles out of your mistakes. How many times in life you went through the wrong turn and ended up completely different from where you anticipated? And it's a welcome surprise, right? So that's the hadith here. Don't say if. So, all that, mashallah, beautiful conversation. I hope you've enjoyed setting the stage with regards to regret. Let's talk solutions. I'm not here to just paint a bleak picture and then say Assalamu alaikum. We're here to problem solve, right? Regret is a deep problem. I'm sure, again, for those qualified as psychiatrists and counselors, they're in the trenches every day. You see all kinds of stories, you hear all kinds of stories, and it's nasty, you know? And may Allah help us, because it's a deep hole. And, you know, as they say, no matter how long you try to climb out of the hole, you can fall back down in an instant. That's the scary thing. If the hole that is dug 10 feet, 20 feet, 100 feet, you climbed, you did everything you could, you reached the top. Yes, I'm here, I'm on the top. Somebody pushes you down, guess what? You fell right back down to where you started. You see? So we need strategies, we need solutions to make sure that we protect ourselves from that. So, first thing, technique number one when it comes to regret is something called reframing. Reframing. It's not meant to be something delusional. It's meant for us to look at things in a productive way. So, reframing, the definition is basically to view something in a different way or to process a situation from a new perspective. All right, that's what it is. You're looking at something from a new angle. That's what reframing is all about. So let's practice this. I got 3 little statements here. So here's an exercise for you. And for those of you at home or tuning in, feel free to join in. You can type your answers in the chat. How would you reframe this situation? I'm a loser because I failed my exam. It's hard hitting for some. They failed their exam, therefore I'm a loser. How would you reframe this situation about failing the exam? Okay. I now know what not to do next time. Very nice. It's a learning experience. Anyone else? Like, let's just say you have a friend of yours, man, dude, Shakur. I failed my exam, man. I'm a loser. Okay, reflect on what you did. Like, did you study, man? Like, or exactly, yeah. Let's figure out what's wrong with the situation. Okay, anyone else? Like, if somebody, I come up to you, man, I failed my exam, such a loser. What would you say? Yeah, you are. Yeah, exactly. Just that's it, man. Yeah, tough love, yeah. One other way you can approach this is like, yeah, it's exposing the cracks in your knowledge, right? That's the idea. So if you got 60, that means you understood 60% of the material. Okay, where's the 40 I didn't get? Okay, let's figure it out. And depending on how severe the example about driver test, I know someone who did their driver exam. You know, and here in Ontario, you need G1, G2, and then G to be fully licensed to drive wherever and whenever. And it was the G exam, okay, to finally pass. What happened was the person was driving and they didn't check their blind spot. Almost crashed, failed the exam. Wow, okay. What that person did, he could have just cursed out the driver instructor, could have just said that this is rigged, or you know, they're not lenient, they're overboard. What did he do? He went home and he discovered this technique where you basically look both ways twice. It's a new technique that he learned. So basically, when you're crossing the street, most people, they look left and right and then they turn. What he did was he did it twice. Once and then again. And then he did it also for his blind spot. He didn't check his blind spot once, he checked it again twice before he's doing it. So 1, 2, then he turned. And the driving instructor, the next one's like, wow, I never seen anybody do it like that. Most people, they miss it because, when you're driving, things can change really fast. Just that extra little step, because he failed that exam, he learned this new technique, saved his life completely. SubhanAllah. So there you go. That's one way you can approach it. All right, next one. Exercise is too much work. How do you reframe this problem? Exercise is too much work. I'm getting that biryani belly. Bro, I don't know what to do, man. I've been failing how many times? I tried my best. It's just not working out. What would you say? How do you reframe this? You want to get that? You want you want to get married, right? Okay, time to. That's your motivation, man. Yallah, I want to make sure that she falls in love with me. Okay, yeah, go ahead, yeah. There's no sunshine without rain? Okay, no pain, no gain. I like that. Get in there, chase that burn. I like it. Okay, fair enough. Anyone else? How do you reframe this situation? Exercise is too tough. Man, that's intense. Yeah, I got you. Like okay. Hard times create tough people. Tough people create easy times. Easy times create weak people. Weak people create tough times. We're in a vicious cycle here. Fair enough. I don't know how that's exercise. Yeah, be tough, There you go. All right, here's another one. This is a little deep. I sinned too much. I'm hopeless. Too much sin. What are some examples? Let's be specific here, right? What are some examples of common sins? Not lowering the gaze, that's one. Haram relationships, fine, that's another one. Alcohol, another one. Drugs, another one. Just be overt, I told you, don't be shy. What other big sins that people feel hopeless? Haram business, okay. Okay, good one, yeah. You're sucked into a world that it's very difficult to just walk away from. Yeah, man. Underground world. Oh, man. Intense. What else? Anything else that you've seen? Family, friends? I mean, not necessarily your family or friends, but just something that what do you hear people say, man, I'm hopeless. I sin too much. Yeah, drugs, yeah. Drinking, yeah. I'm telling you, the usual suspects. And it's nothing, again, there's nothing new under the sun. Yani, the problem of drugs and alcohol, you don't think Rasulullah had to deal with this back then? They had their own version of it. They didn't have Bud Light, but they had other things. You see my point? So that's it. Fair. So how do you rephrase it? Somebody comes up to you, a brother, man, I've sinned too much, man. I don't know. What's the point of prayer? Why do I pray? I'm doing this. Yeah, okay. How do you rephrase this? Yeah, talk to me. Yeah. Beautiful. So we're all sinful. Like the children of Adam, everybody sins. So don't think you're an angel. So that's one way to reframe it. Okay, what else? Never too late to repent to Allah. A real regret. Yeah, that's another big one. Real regret, not just fake regret. Talk to me. You want to die a sinner. Wow, that's a big one. You want to keep going down this road? You want it on your, Talk to me. Tell me, yeah. Yeah, man. It's almost like, is that the book that you want to write? Or do you want to have a new chapter? There are people who've done worse, and they've gotten out of it, right? And there are people who say, oh, inshallah, inshallah, and they never change, right? So you're right. That's an interesting way of looking at it. I never thought of it. They might push them over the edge. They might be saying, yeah, okay, fine, let's do it. You're giving me the permission. But I hear you. So it's an interesting way of looking at it. Like, hey, man, just because you had a bad chapter doesn't mean you have a bad book. You can have a good chapter. Imagine you have a book and there's the bad chapter of all the sins and all the problems. Then imagine you flip the page, new chapter, new beginning. Oh, snap. How on earth, how does this person, again, I mentioned Malcolm X. If you've read his autobiography, you know what I'm shocked by? Cut the book in half. First half of his life, second half of his life, can't believe they're the same person. You're talking about drugs? He said, correct me if I'm wrong, he used to take drugs like it was food. That's how bad it was. SubhanAllah. Malcolm X. Can you imagine getting to that level and then, mashallah, turn around completely? Why do people love him so much and respect him so much? Right? It's because of that transformation. So it's a refrain. Very cool. Few more and then that's good. Another thing is put a fence over the regret. What on earth am I talking about here? Many times people regret about certain things. There's that one interaction that you had that you can't stop thinking about. It's pretty bad and you lose sleep over it. But what happens to many people is they let that regret spill over into other interactions in their daily life. You ever have that before? You had a bad day at work, you go home and you take it out on your family. Their family did nothing wrong, but yet it spilled over because of work. So put a fence over the regret means you contain it. Deal with it on its own. Don't let it spill over other areas of life, because when you do that, everything else gets mushed and affected by it. So you gotta say, look, I had a bad day at work. I said a bad word to this person at this time. Let me put a fence around it. Don't let it affect my family. Don't let it affect my friends. Don't let it affect my own emotion, might affect my own work. Let me put a fence around it. I'll deal with it separately. This is very difficult. This is actually why many people are not so good at business. Truth be told, they can't separate personal from business. You look at me the wrong way, the whole day is shot. Some people take it like that. They can't compartmentalize their interactions, emotions, and things of that nature. Very difficult. Well, yeah, we're human beings. Yeah, I know, but we have ways to deal with things. So put a fence around that regret. You can deal with it separately. One more analogy, if you like the fence, another way you can put it, you ever have, if you go to your basement, chances are, if you have a lot of wires, cords, cables, any one of you have like a box where it's all smushed into one? Has anyone had that experience where you just put all the cables in one place? You know what I mean? And now you go downstairs to take one of the cables you need. Good luck. What happens? It's all tangled up, yeah? And it takes forever to do it. So many people live their life that way. Imagine each cable represents a problem in their life. They don't look at it individually. They mush it all up with everything else. And so you can't deal with it because it's all intertwined. So how do you deal with it? Separate it one by one. Let me deal with things separately. Customer service. You have a ticket, right? I have a complaint, ticket number 52. Okay, let me deal with ticket number 52 separately from ticket number 53. Ticket number 53 is different from ticket number 54. Let me deal with them separately. I'm not going to carry the baggage of ticket number 52 all the way into 62. Do you see where I'm going with this? So put a fence around the regret that you and I have, and let's deal with that separately. Then, inshallah, things will move forward. And the last thing is this. It speaks to what you're talking about, Shakur. And also what you're talking about. You want to die a sinner, just like that? Look at the beautiful way of how Rasulullah is teaching us and talking to us about how this deen gives us a second chance. Famous hadith. Hadith number 18 from the Hadith an-Nawawi. Follow up a bad deed with a good deed, which will wipe it out. Follow up a bad deed with a good deed, which will wipe it out. Does this mean that this is our ticket to doing whatever bad? No. But is this our ticket to fixing things that are bad? Yeah. This isn't a license for us to say, okay, I'll go to the club one day, go to the masjid the other day. Well, it's better that you come to the masjid. Imagine if you didn't go at all and you just completely surround yourself with that environment with nothing to combat it. It's almost like you're rolling around in the mud. Okay, we're going back to the dirt analogy. You're rolling around in the mud. It's dirt all around. You're all dirty, completely dirty. And you don't take a shower. Do you think you're going to get cleaner the next day? You keep rolling around in the mud and you don't take a shower. Still, nothing's going to improve. But imagine you took a shower after every time you got in the mud. Isn't that better? Would it not make you say, man, why do I keep rolling around in the mud if I have to keep taking more showers? Like it makes sense to just stop being in the mud so much. So similarly with our sins, if every time I have to repent and repent and repent all the time, yes, we have to continuously repent. I'm including myself in this conversation. It's just that when there are some major sins, major things that are keeping us and preventing us, you might ask yourself, why am I keep doing that? Here's another way of looking at it. Imagine you have a bank account and there's a deposit of $100 every day. And every time you commit a sin, it goes down to minus $200, for instance, right? Or it goes down to zero. Okay, let me redo the analogy. You do a good deed, $100 in your bank account. You make a sin, you lose $100. So you're down to zero. Okay, let me do another good deed, another $100, and then we do another sin, down to zero. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Does that make sense? What kind of a bank account is this? What would your accountant tell you? Buddy, stop reducing it. Like, what are you doing? These expenses that you're doing, keep it, save it, right? Now with this recession, what's going on here? Keep saving your money. Save your good deeds. Save it. Don't extinguish it. Don't ruin it. Because imagine you did all this good. I did all this good. And then a sin, and you destroyed it all. What's the point? We go back down to zero. Yeah, a streak. Yeah, so that means day one, Ramadan, right? Taraweeh is around the corner. And Taraweeh is a bonus. It's not like you have to. But imagine day one, day two, day three, you fast, good. And then something slips, okay? Keep going. It's a marathon, right? We have our ups and downs. But the point is to get back on that horse, as they say, right? You fall off a horse, you don't just say, Allah, what's happened to me? Okay, get back on it as soon as you can. Because you never know when you have your last breath. Here's a phrase to kind of summarize all this stuff about regret. It's from a poem. And the poem, one of the words, it's either a poem or I think he's a poet, if I'm not mistaken. Here's the phrase. Of all sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these, it might have been. Of all words said through tongue or pen, the saddest are these, it might have been. So in line with regret, we can sit back, wallow in our own misery, say, why is this, why is that, I could have done this, I could have done that. Sure, it's the saddest words, I could have, or you can take this moment to have a new chapter for yourself, a new page, a fresh, clean slate. Once you identify, put a circle around that regret that you have and I have, let's deal with it separately. Then and only then, when you clean that spot, you clean that dirt, inshallah, everything else will follow suit. And just like Rasulullah is telling us, follow up a bad deed with a good deed, inshallah khair, we'll have a plus in our akhirah bank account. Inshallah, we won't have anything to regret on the day of regrets. So, mashallah, tabarakallah. I'm really honored and thankful for all of you here taking the time out of your day, especially during this blizzard and snowstorm. And for those of you tuning in online, truly, truly grateful for that. Alhamdulillah. Again, that's wonderful. I don't know about you. I enjoyed this conversation. Any thoughts while we wrap up here? Anything in particular that you wanted to add? Any highlight from this that you took away from? Just curious. Closing remarks. Floor is yours. Sure. Ah, the the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time to start is today, is now. I heard a variation of this. They said the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. You could have done things a long time ago, invested in yourself, fixed yourself, learned Quran. I should have done it 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Second best time is now. You can do it now. You can make up for lost time. That's the beautiful thing. Allah, nothing, miracles can happen, right? People, I've heard of people, 70, 80 years old, they're memorizing Quran. You think to yourself, what on earth? How? Allah makes a way. You put the time, you put in the energy, you put in the effort, anything can happen, right? 100%. That's an awesome way to get the juices flowing. Anything else in particular, anything you'd like to add, or anything of our general conversation that stood out? Yeah. Oh, that hadith really stuck you, huh? Or the one about the carcass of the donkey, that one? Be mindful of who you're hanging out with. Yeah, man. I'm telling you, again, if you have that filter in your head, in a way, look, if I hang out with you, are you bringing me closer to Allah, or are you taking me away from Allah? Just be mindful of it. I'm not saying that you don't hang out with exclusive, but you be mindful of it, saying, hey, man, how much time do I want to give to this person? Are they going to be, and especially, I'm going to pick on the youth for a second. Yeah, man, the youth, oh man, let's go, let's do this. And they all get excited over, I'm telling you, they get excited over things that down the line you're not going to get excited about. People get excited over the next movie, the next entertainment. Again, I'm not knocking. I grew up here, so I know all the hits. I know all the movies. I know everything, pretty much. At least I'd like to think that. I've probably lost touch by now about so many things. But yeah, so many people get so excited over the latest video games and whatnot. Great, but I'm telling you, all those hours that you racked up, in the end, man, it's just, what's the currency, right? What's going to be the thing, all in all? Is it going to be weighed the most? That's all it is. So, yeah, man, I hear you. Be mindful of who you surround yourself with. Fair enough. Anything else? Mashallah, you two brothers have been very, very awesome with this. Do you have any concluding thoughts or remarks? Just curious. Yeah, go. Regret. Is it better to compartmentalize it, or that's a good point. There's a difference between just shoving it away versus tackling it head on. So the question I would ask myself is, can I do something about it? What can I do to alleviate this regret? So let's just say, I'm going to go back to the example you had about saying something bad, or you said some bad words, or you had an argument with somebody. All right, I can't take back the words. I can, in a way, but it's done. The question is, well, what can I do to alleviate some of the stress, right? I could take them out to dinner, for instance, be like, hey, man, I'm so sorry. This is my way to make it up to you. I didn't mean, or, just you have a heartfelt apology for it, depending on the level of brotherhood that you have with this person. If they try to cut you off or whatnot, then already it's on shaky ground, right? It depends on the situation. But in terms of sweeping things under the rug, I wouldn't do that, because it's going to show up in other places. If you ever have friends or family, something is there, but you don't address it, but it's still lingering. If you don't tackle things, for me personally, this is what I like. I love people who are very upfront. Don't waste my time. I don't waste their time. Look, man, if I'm applying for a job, for example, I say, what are your hours? What's the timing? What's the money? Like, what's this stuff? Example, right? Up front. So there's no surprises down the line. There's no miscommunication. So similarly with this about regrets, if you don't tackle it head on, then it's subconsciously going to affect everything else that you have. So what I would say is do your best to attack it head on. And then if you ask yourself, have I done everything within reason to fix this or to address it? If the answer is yes, great, then you move on from it. But don't it's almost like here's one last way to look at it is imagine your regret is a house. Did you explore every corner of that house to make it right? If the answer is yes, then you can abandon that house. But if you haven't explored every corner of it within reason, because time is short, what are you going to do? Spend all your time crying about one person or one thing that happened? This is where PTSD comes into play, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. They let one incident, I know I'm probably overgeneralizing, I don't mean to, is that if one incident affects everything else. So if we don't tackle that one thing, then everything else falls out of place. So if you explore the corners, have I done everything within reason? Yes. Okay, let's put it to rest. So you can put yourself at rest. That's how people move on, right? Make sense? Awesome. Anything else? MashaAllah. Khair. Well, that's all about regrets. I regret that we have to cut this session, but alhamdulillah, I've been very honored, fortunate. Thank you again so much. I don't take it lightly that you've taken time out of your day on this Jummah, this beautiful, blessed Friday, to hang out here. And for those of you tuning in, if you're watching the recording or live, again, truly grateful and honored. Alhamdulillah, I hope and pray that this whole conversation of regrets puts us in a new position for 2024 and that we can pull out the weeds of all the things that are gone wrong in our life and we can start headed towards success. Ramadan's around the corner, so what better way than now to start making preparations to have a better life. Subhanakallah wa bihamdi, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Barakallahu feek. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone.